Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last ranked number 33, and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yeah, yeah.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds for deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, I best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folk tried to ignore us. So we at the ballot box, it's a vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanized so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, your host and White House correspondent, broadcasting live from Los Angeles, where I'm rocking with you in afternoon drive time. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ. That's me. Just type it in. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app if you haven't already. And also be sure to check out our new health and wellness hub at KBLA1580.com. That's KBLA1580.com. It's your one-stop shop for a lot of really helpful tips, tools, and resources to help keep you healthy. Because around these parts, we believe that health is wealth. And so be sure to check that out. Last but not least, subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you'll never miss an episode. Now, we have quite a show in store for you today. In our second hour, you don't want to miss my conversation with Rashawn Williams. Yeah, the guest shark on ABC Shark Tank, the brother. Yeah, he's going to be joining me to talk about the new season of Shark Tank on ABC. You don't want to miss this Morehouse man disclosing how he continues to do right by his HBCU. I mean, he is going to extraordinary measures to engage, protect, and preserve the legacy of Morehouse. And when you hear what he's doing, you might be inspired to do the same, or at least do what you can. But in this hour, in just a few moments, so we'll be joined with our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr, the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He will be joining us to separate the fact from the fiction. But first, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. A busy news day it is. Kicking us off, Trump announced that he's going to meet with Democratic Hill leaders over this possible government shutdown. Axios is reporting that President Trump plans to accept the invitation from congressional Democratic leaders to meet and discuss a solution for avoiding a government shutdown. Why it matters? Well, Republican and Democratic Hill leaders, they're at a standoff. They're at a standoff right now as we speak. They are at a standoff over this stopgap funding measure, with the September 30th deadline for avoiding a shutdown quickly approaching. Trump plans to meet with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sometime before the shutdown deadline. Though that time has not been decided, Democratic leaders were informed of this decision just today. And a White House official confirmed that the meeting is happening, but didn't share any details on the timing. It's worth noting that Schumer and Jeffries demanded a meeting with Trump in a letter sent on Saturday, saying, quote, "It's now your obligation to meet with us directly to reach an agreement to keep the government open and address the Republican healthcare crisis." It was not immediately clear if Senate Majority Leader John Thune or Speaker Mike Johnson would also join the meeting. And in Jimmy Kimmel news, oh my goodness, up in Sacramento, Jimmy Kimmel's suspension might have been a factor in a shooting at a Sacramento ABC affiliate. NBC News is reporting that a man accused of shooting at an ABC affiliate in Sacramento last week may have been motivated in part by the network's suspension of late night host Jimmy Kimmel. There's circumstantial evidence that Annabelle Hernandez Santana had a political motive behind the shooting on Friday. That's according to the Sacramento County District Attorney. They say that there are some indications that that the motive behind the shooting of the ABC news station was political in kind. Authorities say that they're still looking at investigating the case, but that he chose a very particular target. And with the notes that he left behind and the target in place and the recent dismissal of the Jimmy Kimmel Show, authorities think that there's circumstantial evidence there to show that this was politically motivated by the individual. And so that's what's happening in Sacramento. But let's, head over to Atlanta, Georgia, where Pastor Jamal Bryant, he did not mince words. See, there are a lot of folks that have lots of opinions about what's happening and not happening in corporate America, in terms of the silencing that we're seeing, the silencing effect that we're seeing on folks exercising their right to free speech. I want to play with you just a little sound of what Bishop Jamal Bryant had to say just this past Sunday. And you tell us if he was on the nose.
It is that censorship is afoot in this nation around the freedom of speech. They first silenced Stephen Colbert and then Jimmy Kimmel. And they thought they were going to do it without any consequence. But because of what is taking place, Americans are waking up in realizing that our constitutional rights are being infringed upon. And so I want to welcome them. Disney has lost upwards of $3 billion in 48 hours. I wanted to welcome them to the block party. Amen. Because we've been boycotting Target since February. So I hope that larger community will boycott.
Well, he said he hopes that the larger community will keep the boycott going, but there's no signs that the boycott will keep going because a few hours before we joined you on air, NBC News reporting that Jimmy Kimmel's show is returning on Tuesday. That's what ABC News has announced. Jimmy Kimmel's late night show will return to ABC's airwaves Tuesday, nearly a week after it was suspended amid criticism of the host's remarks about the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Disney, which owns ABC, said in a statement today, quotes, "Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation and an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision that we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive." They went on to say that we've spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy. And after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. This announcement ends an impasse that had drawn national attention, plunging Disney into a political firestorm at the intersection of debate over free speech and cancel culture. You heard Pastor Jamal Bryant say just moments ago, billions of dollars, an estimated $3 to $4 billion lost related to this. And so looks like free speech lives, at least for now. When we come forward, we're switching gears. We'll be welcoming back to the show our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr, to separate the fact from the fiction. And the latest headlines are related to mass deportations and the MAGA attempt to reform immigration as we know it in this country. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Exciting news, ladies. Always discreet boutique bladder leak underwear are available in black and printed design. Protect yourself with style. These fit and feel just like real underwear, and they give you up to 0 leaks, 0 odor. Designed for all shapes and sizes, they give you the confidence to be fully yourself. Don't let bladder leaks hold you back. Buy Always Discreet Boutique Bladder Leak underwear now.
Y'all ready for Gillette's best shave? Try Gillette Labs with 5 ultra-thin blades, a built-in exfoliating bar, a precision trimmer on the back for sharp lineups. Gillette Labs delivers that smooth shave. Plus, and check this out, with 1 refill, you'll get up to 30 shaves. And on average, the blades last 50% longer than Gillette Fusion. Got something special coming up and you gotta look good? Check out Gillette Labs, the best a man could get. Gillette Labs also available in heated.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Hit me! National news, the consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and always a pleasure to welcome back to the show our resident immigration law expert, Alan Orr Esquire. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law, and we always appreciate having you here to help us separate the fact from the fiction. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, some big news coming out of California this weekend. Governor Gavin Newsom, he signs a law to resist Trump's immigration crackdown, which includes a ban on masks for ICE agents. Alan, talk to us about why this law, why this act by Gavin Newsom is so critically important, and what's the likelihood that we will see other Democratic governors across the country follow suit?
Very likely, because it's a very strong move. Secondly, I think the framing of it needs to be about safety and concern, right? Because what we've learned in the history of the United States about mass people doing things isn't exactly a probative issue to understand why it's problematic. And we've also seen a number of people be attacked in different states from people wearing masks that were not ICE agents, that were perpetrated as ICE agents. And also in the video, since we are recording things as they happen to capture it and tell the story, if we're not able to identify who the officers are for the repercussions of their job, then it becomes problematic. So what the governor has done is made a very sensible argument, right? Gavin Newsom isn't walking around with a mask on. Judges in courts aren't walking around with a mask on. Public officials in the House and the Senate aren't walking around with masks on, right? So why do these ICE agents, who we're not exactly sure what their qualifications are or where they're from, able to have this sort of rampant run through the streets of California? Now, the question that you ask is, will this be successful? And this comes down to federalism. We've already seen something that, in my many years of practicing law, I've never seen the DHS Twitter account used as a weapon before. But the Twitter account has already said, why is Governor Newsom partnering the sides with the gangs, right? And you ask yourself, well, how many gang members have they actually arrested in California? Not that many, because 70% of the people who have been detained in California were people whose only issue was they entered the United States without documentation, which is a civil offense by current law until Congress changes it. So it's going to be a federal argument once again, but it is a comment and a statement to the federal government about masks. And I think the other issue you will now see is when the president's speaking somewhere, are they allowing people to wear masks at those events? Are they allowing people to wear masks at other federal events? And the answer is going to be no. So it's going to be a rough argument. But what we've seen today from the Supreme Court is, which is disheartening a little bit, is that they are going to side with the Trump administration while the litigation goes forward, if it reaches that point, and then, in time, run out the clock. So by the time you get a resolution, which maybe they don't get to wear masks, it might not even be anything fruitful for the state of California to actually enact, because he might not even be president anymore.
Cal Matters and a number of other news outlets reporting that the Department of Homeland Security earlier this week, they called on Governor Newsom to veto the mask bill, one of the more contentious pieces of immigration legislation, calling it despicable. The fact that DHS was calling on the governor to veto this, is that a recognition that they might have hit a dead end or at least are facing a detour in their mass deportation efforts in California?
I think so. I think it's a little bit of so the way our government works is slow and deliberative and body. And since this is something that went from the people through the appropriate channels, it's harder for them to sort of undo it when they're doing things that have not gone through these appropriate channels. A lot of this stuff is done by agency acts, which are just regulations or people deciding to do something without sort of challenging the constitutional friction of it. So I think they understood that how hard it would be. I mean, we've already seen the National Guard and all these things sort of been stressed in California in this testing, and the United States government not holding up quite well. So it is a very problematic place for the government to be in when they're situationally, they're losing, right? They're not deporting the gang members they said they were going to deport. They're not helping the economy they said they were going to help. And they're infringing on the rights of United States citizens who are constantly being arrested and then released later. And even some of the immigrants are being released later. And that's just not a powerful look for our government right now.
Alan, what do you say to the critics who say, okay, yeah, Governor Newsom signed this law, this ban into law. Sounds great, but it'll likely be a struggle to enforce that new law. Let's talk about just enforcement of this. Is it going to be, nearly impossible for California local law enforcement to enforce this ban against federal officials?
I don't think it's going to be impossible. I think there will be a friction and a windup in court. I mean, look at Brown versus Board of Education. We've still been dealing with that since '54, sort of the enforcement of that. So it'll take two parts. But I think the more people are standing, I think we're in a moment where people are deciding that enough is enough. And California is at that point of saying enough is enough. And some of the ICE officers, they're doing a lot of recruiting now. So those people cannot be trained in on the street so readily, are going to say that they're not going to do this sort of thing. So there are going to be enough situations, if we're recording it appropriate, of where we're going to have ICE officers stepping beyond the bounds because they're not trained appropriately and they're not used to dealing with United States citizens and their rights because they think they have the force of the presidency behind them, that it might make a pretty strong court case that even judges at the Supreme Court level will say this just can't happen.
What about the politics of this, Alan? California political consultant Mike Madrid, he's been a guest on this show before. He said in response to the signing of these new laws that Newsom's showing that he can stand up and fight whether or not he has a chance of winning. There are lots of Democrats and just folks in opposition to Trump that are saying, come on, fight back. Does Newsom score a major win on the politics front, even if the enforcement of these new laws are uneven?
Yes, of course. I think the difference, like we said before, is that, this is the power of the people at work. So we have different state laws across the board, right? One of the things that was recently discussed were these gun laws, right? That some states have different gun laws, and the California and other states, Chicago is asked to change these gun laws from different states. So if we're going to have the federal government start stepping into states and telling states how they need to enforce their laws and the protection of their people, that oversteps federalism, specifically if we're only going to do it in blue state areas where we say that this massive concern. So I think it is a powerful statement. And I think that more people are going to have to stand up and say this is a policy, because this was policy decision by the people of California saying this is what the best policy is for our state.
Moving from California to news coming out of Washington, the BBC reporting that the White House denies that border czar Tom Homan accepted a $50,000 bribe. According to various outlets, Homan just last year allegedly promised immigration-related government contracts to FBI agents posing as business executives during a meeting in Texas. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt has denied the accusation, stating that Homan, quotes, did absolutely nothing wrong and was the target of the Biden administration's politically motivated attempt to discredit him. Is this a scandal in plain sight? Or when we look at everything that's afoot on the immigration front, is this small potatoes?
I don't think it's small potatoes at all. And so I think this goes along with the Epstein files, that the Biden administration had to be fortuitous in knowing that the Trump administration would win and that he would become the border czar to sort of make this thing happen before any of this other stuff happened. So those are fictions that sort of go along the wayside. In addition, there's supposedly video of him accepting $50,000 in a kava bag, which is a popular restaurant in DC, Mediterranean restaurant in DC. So that's uncommon. Nobody sort of gives anybody $50,000 in cash in a brown paper bag. That seems suspect in the very sense of it, and that it's on video. So release the videotape is what I say to that. More importantly, the reporting also says that they weren't even going after Tom Homan, that he came up in the conversation of going after another prize, and that they gave the bribe, or they participated in this to see what would happen after he was the election, to see exactly what was going to happen. So that's question number one. What happened after the election? Is it true that this company got some favor? Did he report the $50,000 on his taxes? How did he report it on his taxes? Like, what bank did you just sort of deposit it in, and what promises were made? And there's something that I find interesting that we all know. Anybody, you don't have to have a law degree to watch Law and Order and know from 10 seasons that generally when you have someone who does that type of thing, it's never just one, right? It's never just this one time. It's something that you do over the time. So there's a pattern there that could exist that needs to be questioned. So I know Tom Homan from being in DC and doing different shows with him, and I mean, he worked for President Obama as well. So there needs to be more light on this because he is the person who stands on TV and says, we're about law and order, right? We got to enforce these laws. We can't have any scrimmages on us. So maybe at the time what he did was not illegal, but it's suspect enough to keep you from getting the job that he currently has. And the question has always been, why did he not get a job that needed to be approved by the Senate? And now, potentially, this is the answer why he didn't get a Senate confirmation job, because there was this problem that they knew about in the Department of Justice, and it would have reared its ugly head and there have been a bigger conversation. But you can't say you're about law enforcement and have this in your back pocket and also not want to give immigrants grace when you've supposedly done something that seems inappropriate in everyone's eyes. And if there's a tape, I mean, he's not guilty of this shit, but there's enough evidence to say, well, then roll the videotape and let's have him answer the conversation. What she said today was that it wasn't a crime. And in fact, it is not a crime if he would have taken the $50,000 and done nothing with it, right? Walked away with it. It's suspect, but it's not a crime.
I think that's a surprise to some of the people that may be listening, the fact that you could take $50,000 in a brown kava bag, and depending on what you do with that $50,000, if I'm following you correctly, it may or may not be a crime.
Because he wasn't at the time, he was not a government official, right? So, I mean, it happens all the time that people sort of, I guess they call it grease in the wheel, and it's inappropriate by every stretch of the imagination. If you do something in government, if you do a government official to get you a favor, it is problematic under the law, right? In foreign countries. But people pay money for people to do things for them all the time. Here's $50,000 towards your, whatever it is, your pet project or your company or what, to introduce me to this person or whatever it is. And they're not necessarily always a crime.
When we come forward, Trump's new $100,000 visa fee, it's setting off panic and confusion. But don't you worry, we have Alan Orr here to help calm our nerves and redirect our attention to where it should be. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More with the founder of Orr Immigration Law, Alan Orr, when we come forward.
The audience is listening. Thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Congresswoman Maxine Waters and activists are urging the UN to investigate U.S. immigration raids, saying President Trump is violating the Constitution.
We're here because rights are not abstractions. They are promises that must be upheld in the places people live and work.
They want UN leaders to visit Los Angeles and other cities impacted by arrests. Monday on The View, Whoopi Goldberg criticized the FCC over Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, saying the government should not silence people. Kimmel was pulled off the air after remarks about Charlie Kirk's assassination, but is expected to return to his late-night talk show on Tuesday. And New York City mayoral candidates stayed busy on the trail Sunday. Democrat Zohran Mamdani spoke at Harlem's African American Day and hinted at support from Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo visited churches, stressing his experience. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Long Beach is tough, 710, making your way along that southbound side. It's an earlier crash, Pacific Coast Highway, still blocking the two left lanes. This earlier wreck causing a huge problem, and so is the fuel spill that they're mopping up. Big delays away from Del Amo Boulevard on the northbound side of the 710. This is just on the other side of the 91 freeway. They've just cleared this earlier crash, but traffic is a huge mess getting away from Shoreline Drive.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year, and their weight. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The University of Pittsburgh announced Monday morning that they are retiring the number 97 jersey of former Rams defensive star Aaron Donald. Donald played at Pitt from 2010 to 2013. Pittsburgh is retiring Donald's number at their November 15th home game against Notre Dame. Donald was a first-round pick of the Rams in 2014. He played all 10 of his NFL seasons with the Rams before retiring in 2023. Donald will be a first-ballot Hall of Famer in 2028. The main reason the Rams blew a 19-point lead in Philadelphia Sunday was because their defense broke down late in the game. In the fourth quarter, the Eagles were successful on 4 third-down conversions and 2 fourth-down conversions. The Rams defense just couldn't get off the field. Top 5 teams in this week's college football poll: Ohio State, Miami, Penn State, LSU, and Georgia. 4-0 USC moved up from 25 to 21. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Break out the champagne. Everybody get a glass.
Tavis Smiley is now ranked number 16 nationally and the highest rated talk show hosted by an African American on the 2025 Talkers Heavy 100 list of the most important talk radio hosts in the nation. Last year, Tavis ranked number 33 and the year before, number 45. The Tavis Smiley Show has rapidly expanded its national syndication to now include nearly 50 radio stations across the country and counting. Congratulations, Tavis.
Yay! So many things, big and little, make you uniquely you. Your hobbies, dreams, career, family, and more. Addiction to drugs, including opioids and stimulants, can strip these away from you. Recover your life. Choose treatment for drug addiction and get back to what matters most. Find a provider and proven treatment option that's right for you at ChooseChangeCA.org. Recover you.
Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and he is Alan Orr Esquire. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law. He is our resident immigration law expert. And before we get back to Alan, I just want to share a little bit of breaking news while we've been on air. President Trump has signed an executive order designated Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. He signed that executive order today designating Antifa a decentralized set of extreme left-wing groups as a domestic terrorist organization, saying, quotes, "I hereby designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. All relevant executive departments and agencies shall utilize all applicable authorities to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations, especially those involving terrorist actions conducted by Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa, or for which Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa provided material support, including necessary investigatory and prosecutorial actions against those who fund such operations. Alan, I want to give you a chance to react to this breaking news.
Sure. So first, I think we need to know what Antifa stands for, which means anti-fascism, just so we're at a level-based setting to know what the concept is and why it's sort of surrounding so many of the civil rights groups around the world, because there's so many groups that are against things that might seem fascist. And so welcome to the McCarthy era of the Trump administration, right? This is a witch hunt. This is just a wand to be able to suspect anyone, to sort of point at people. Once again, this is what the Supreme Court said about individuals in California. Basically, if they speak Spanish, that might not be the sole reason, but it's one of the reasons why you can investigate them. It sort of lowers the standard for investigating these different organizations and sort of wielding against them to tie them up into criminal litigation and suits that will waste their time and money, right? That's what this is really about. And so let's talk about the executive order, because I think from a legal perspective, it is important. I've said this before on the station before, but executive orders are wishes from the president. The president does not make law. Right? There are very few cases in which the president can take immediate action, and that is wartime or crisis additions. So there's no wartime, there's no crisis. So this sort of executive order is crazy in itself, because nowhere in the Constitution or in the regulations does he have the power to designate something as a terrorist organization. It doesn't work that way. He does not have the power to do that. So once again, this is a show of force from him that he does all the time by signing paper that means nothing and has no legal effect until it's enforced in some other way, because there's no regulations, there's no standards, right? That's the issue that you're missing from this. What are the standards for determining if something is Antifa, right? Who's going to do that? The agency's going to decide that on their own? No. So this is just a broad wish. It's a statement, and it is a political piece to sort of get caught up in the news of saying blah, 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 rather than the news saying, wait a minute, we have looked at the Constitution. The president does not have this power. This is a wish of his. If he wants to do something, he needs to go through Congress, and then we can deal with it.
You know, one of the words that jumps out at me in the language in the executive order, and I take your point in terms of the executive order not being law, but really it is what the president wishes, is how he wishes the government to move forward and operate. You know, one of the folks that he is zeroing in on are funders. They're saying that there can be investigatory and prosecutorial actions against those who fund such operations. What impact do you think this might have in the world of philanthropy, for example? There are a lot of folks out there saying that funders on the left could and should be doing a whole lot more to support organizations across the country and around the world that are fighting against fascism, that are fighting against the conservative movement and white supremacy violence. Are you concerned that this may cause funders, to pull back even more?
So we're friends, so let's have a friendly conversation, because I think this is a reality TV president, and we're in a reality TV moment. And what we know that happened earlier today was that we heard that Jimmy Kimmel was coming back on television. So someone he thought he had removed and silenced and taken away their rights in a chilling effect has now resounded in a way that this people will not be chilled, right? Actors were speaking out, Hollywood was speaking out, California was speaking out and saying it's not okay to take away our rights. We'll never do this. It's never okay. Bold statements. Even Republicans, Ted Cruz, spoke out against this action against someone who's a spokesperson. So in this losing narrative, here comes another piece of fiction to have a chilling effect on people. And what we have found early on in this Trump administration is that in his bully effects, he's able to tell some people to quell them to be less than what they should be. Many large law firms rolled over immediately. Many companies rolled over immediately. And we have to see in this moment, if people are going to decide, no more, this is a line, you're going to have to prove that we're Antifa. You just can't sort of do that. So yeah, it's going to chill a lot of funding, right? So already in the immigration world, a lot of law firms that used to take immigration cases pro bono aren't doing it anymore. The funding isn't coming in like it is anymore. A lot of the nonprofits have shut down across the board because they're not getting the indirect funding or the concern about that. Many projects that were around the world linked to USAID ended, right? So many of these democracy projects are no longer being funded. People are sort of in the wind because they're afraid of being in the eye of the Trump administration and having the headline that you're bad or you're this, because once he says it, regardless of if it's true or not, then you have the repercussions of that in the business world and in the arena. And that's really the problem that everyone faces right now. So yes, it's chilling. Yes, I hope Congress stands up against it. I hope to see the Democrats in front of the mic tomorrow saying, you don't have the power. You don't have the power. You can't designate. This is not a witch hunt. We're not doing McCarthyism again. And then Americans finally say, this is not something we want this president or any president to do.
In other relevant news, Trump wants to win this AI race, but there are a lot of folks out there saying that his immigration policies could very well get in the way. We're hearing that by the end of this week, there should be an announcement made in terms of which group will take control of TikTok America. And we're hearing very familiar names, Lachlan Murdoch and Rupert Murdoch, Larry Ellison, and others. Talk to us about what may not be so clear and so apparent. I think there's a lot of folks who are like, yeah, USA, 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 let's win this AI race. But talk to us about the ways in which our immigration policies are tied to that folks may not know, that may not be so apparent to folks who are less familiar.
Well, let's start with a couple of things. First, just the talent, right? So right now there's a decrease in federal students. Foreign students from the United States, I think it's around 50% or upwards those numbers somewhere in that abroad. So the talent's not coming here anymore to be at the front of the AI. So they're going other places. Then you spoke about earlier this fee that was imposed for new H-1Bs for the next year's cap, which they're calling a fee, but in fact it is a tax, and the president can't do a tax. It has to go through Congress. So just to do our constitutional conversation while we're having it, but that's going to turn a lot of foreign nationals and companies away from saying, well, I'm going to hire somebody in the United States, I have to pay them a salary and $100,000 to the government broad to let someone come into the technology. I could pay them less in some other country. They can develop the technology there and it can stay there. So once again, we're hurting ourselves by saying we don't want immigrants here, when in fact those immigrants, Google, Apple, are the foundation of many of the large corporations we have. It is part of the American exceptionalism to take talent from the rest of the world, colonize it, and then present it as our own. So once again, it's sort of pushing us back in the realm. But what we should know as Black individuals is there used to be 50 or so different organizations in the media. Now it's down to 5. And those 5 run the algorithm that feeds us information, which either gets us super excited or super joyful. And so that is a very powerful tool that we want to make sure isn't in the hand of one person who can sort of tell the world what the story is, because to the winner goes the ability to tell the story about what happened. And that's the real problem in American history, is that we always have the story where we're always wearing a white hat, when in many cases we were wearing a black hat.
I don't know who's wearing a white hat or a black hat, but I know that there are a lot of folks that are panicked and confused about this new $100,000 visa fee that the Trump administration rolled out in a surprise order. It is setting off a frenzy. There's some frantic travelers out there, frantic companies out there, foreign governments scrambling to respond to DC's latest immigration crackdown. By the time the White House clarified that the existing holders of H-1B visas for skilled workers were not affected, the chaos was already sown. As you mentioned, a number of U.S. allies expressing concern, and their nationals abandoned holidays and business trips and plans to see their families as they raced back to America before the new rules took effect on Sunday. The tech giants have been spending a lot of time with Trump at the White House. We saw them in full display in the UK during that state dinner held by King Charles. Who's winning? Is Trump winning? Or are these tech titans? Are they winning, and what are they winning? Because I don't know. I don't run $1 billion business like they do. But I have the good sense to know anybody running a business that had this kind of uncertainty as often as it comes up, it can't be good for the short-term and long-term interests of the business.
You're correct. So nobody's winning. The United States definitely is not winning. So there are no winners in this case. There's just mass confusion. But I think what was proven is that there's access, because the proclamation came out Friday night. Lawyer fees went up. We started drafting lawsuits. People were trying to get back to the United States, paying $8,000 for tickets to get back to the United States in time. Right. And what the draft showed you is the unsophistication of the people who are dealing with immigration, that they don't know what the different components are or who it will impact. They said, oh, it doesn't apply to all, but if you read it, it clearly applies to all. And so that issue is the problem that nobody's winning. But what they were able to do was to get in the White House on Saturday morning and say, wait a damn minute, this is going to wreck our economy. We're going to keep our employees outside the United States, and then we're going to lose all these jobs across the board. And the housing market in Texas is basically fueled by Chinese nationals and Indian nationals that are here on H-1Bs. And just so people know, there are people who are Black who also use H-1Bs, probably tens of thousands of them from the continent and from the Caribbean that are also here who will be impacted by the change in this rule.
So much going on, so much affecting everyday people. One of the things that I love about having you on whenever you're available to join us is you're always able to leave us with tips, tools, and resources that help us in building a plan. We know that fearing deportation, there are a number of families out there with mixed immigration status that are making emergency plans. What are you hearing? What are you learning that might inform the kind of plans that families with mixed immigration statuses should be making?
Right. So anyone here who has someone who's undocumented should be making plans with regards to what happens if there is a raid at the place of work, at their home, or if they're encountered on the streets of the United States. And there's a red card, Google red card on the internet, and it will pop up with different scenario and cards, exactly what you do in those scenarios. So you don't have to think about it. You can just reflect on the card. Most importantly to that, people in these communities that are being distracted or impacted by this need to start talking to local government. Local government is a lot closer to you than some congressional person. So it's time to let them know this is disrupting my business. This is disrupting our community. What we see farmers now doing about soybeans, people need to be doing about immigration and their family members, because the more those stories impact, the more they sort of get concerned. The biggest tool and the last thing that happened under the Trump administration was this family separation. And when people saw families separated, they said, wait a minute, that's not the US brand. That's not what we need, right? And we're going to change that. And now once the numbers come out of how much it is to sort of deport and remove and detain these individuals under this current administration, every American should say, that's not our brand. And it doesn't help us financially. It doesn't help us in an economic way. And if the president wants to do something on immigration, he should go through Congress and they should pass a bill. That way it's not temporary.
Last question before we let you go, Alan. This weekend I had a chance to talk to LA Mayor Karen Bass and Bishop William Barber, who are in town joining forces in a really creative way to provide support for folks that are having to navigate these uncharted waters in our city. But one of the questions I put to them was around the potential government shutdown and what impact that might have on how ICE raids are happening, how the Department of Homeland Security is operating. One of the things that Mayor Bass told me is don't think that if the government shuts down, suddenly ICE shuts down. Suddenly these mass deportation efforts come to a screeching halt. She said that is not the case. Can you expand on that?
So when the government shuts down, so every government shutdown is different. So I think that's important to understand. And that there's a designation of what are essential services and what are not essential services with regards to the government. And enforcement is not, it will not be deemed something is deemed an essential service. So it will still operate. Of course, we're not going to just shut down the FBI and all these other places. But what happens in those circumstances, in many cases, the individuals aren't paid while doing those jobs. They're not able to get their money. So therefore, I don't know how many officers are able to work and not get paid. That's the biggest concern that sort of happens across the government, is that, oh, you got me coming to work, but there's no money. Once the government reopens, generally they will make them whole. But in this case, with this standoff where the Democrats sort of have the fear to say, listen, why are we passing a budget when you're redistributing money anyway? And if you want to do it with your own people, right? They have enough to do it. That they may decide that the government can last a long time. And that's a problem across the board for what happens. But also that enforcement side that we're talking about, the correction part of the people who would come in and say, you know what, ICE, you did this wrong. That's also going to be hampered. But the courts will stay open. ICE will stay in effect. In many cases, people will not get paid, and some services will not continue to happen. There might be administrative things behind the scenes, such as getting fingerprints and other things that may be delayed to process someone through the system. But one of the concerns that we have is the same concern they have with Republicans, is that we need to sort of crowd the system and rush and break the system as it is. And if you can't pay people and you're just holding more people because you can't remove a lot of people because sometimes you won't have the planes to do that, it's going to be problematic for the president pretty soon to say, wait a minute, we need to think about what's on the table before we shut the government down.
Our thanks to Alan Orr. I always feel so much smarter when you join us. Thank you, friend. We really appreciate you. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, the quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. In our remaining minutes, I saw this story and I thought it important, given how much conversation we've had on this show and on this station about housing, affordable housing, access to quality housing. And this story may hit close to home for many of you. NBC News reporting on a story of a family priced out of traditional housing and talking about how more Americans are living in RVs. That's right. We know that there are a number of folks out there, who have all sorts of arrangements. It's a lifestyle adjustment that data indicates a growing number of Americans are making. As housing costs rise beyond what many families can afford, people are looking for shelter outside the traditional housing market. About 486,000 people are living full-time in an RV, which appears to be more than twice as many in 2021, according to survey data from the RV Industry Association. You see, about a third have children, and a vast majority earn less than $75,000 a year. A separate survey by the Census Bureau found a similar trend. In 2023, the most recent data available, it estimated 342,000 people were living in an RV, boat, or van, an increase of, get this, 41% from 2019. You see, for many, this is not a lifestyle of nomadic young professionals working remotely as they travel the country, chronicling their van life on social media, nor is it the more traditional image of the retiree crossing national parks off their bucket list in a $100,000 motor coach with the freedom of healthy retirement savings. Rather, it's the experience of lower income Americans making hourly wages as childcare workers or home health aides or living off of Social Security checks with no place else to go in a housing market increasingly catering to the wealthiest slices of society. Make no mistake about it, housing costs that soared during the pandemic have shown little sign of coming down, with the gap between the median household income and how much income is necessary to afford payments on a median price home reaching a near 10-year high just last year alone, according to an NBC News analysis of housing data. I share this so that we all have a more sober view of the challenge ahead of us. We can't build a more perfect union without creating more access to affordable housing. Operative word, affordable. Affordable for everybody, different income levels. We can't look away from this. So the next time you see an RV on the road, I want you to think about this story. The next time you look at a ballot, the next time you look at a piece of campaign literature, I want you to ask yourself, what are they doing and what can I do in an attempt to solve this? Because it's not going away. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Rashawn Williams. He is the guest shark on ABC's Shark Tank, premiering its new season this week. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. With a government shutdown looming, Democrats Chuck Schumer and Black House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries sent President Trump a letter blaming Republicans for stalled talks.
If we gave them everything they wanted, they wouldn't extend.